Hi, everyone. Today, I want to talk to you about some things that we need to do before we travel, especially if we are traveling internationally. So I'll see you on the other side. I'm Anita, AKA the professor. Join me and my husband, Kevin, as we strap on our backpacks, grab our passports, and explore this amazing world. Now, the first thing, of course, is we need to consider where we're going. And in my case, next month, I'll be going to Portugal and Spain. And on the return trip, I'll also be flying through Amsterdam. Beauty of that is all those countries deal in euros. And my personal experience is cash is king, particularly at these small restaurants, cafes, and small shops. Whenever I book my reservations for hotels and the albergues, I typically do that with a credit card. But I am going to carry cash with me. Now, where am I going to get that cash? I'm going to first check with my banking institution. In my case, they have a policy in which they will order the euros for me. Takes about just a few days. And that way, I am not paying these exorbitant exchange fees at the airport. And I don't have to deal with a foreign bank in country. Now, everybody needs to make their own personal decision on how they do that. But for me, I like arriving to a country with cash in hand. Okay. And with that comes security with the cash. I do not carry a wallet. All right, I have a little shoulder bag. I'll show you here. So this is my little shoulder bag, and it's very small, and it goes right around my shoulder. As I'm walking through town, I can keep one hand on it. It's very secure. The other thing I like about this, it also has protection of my credit cards, so they cannot be read by unscrupulous people while I'm walking around. And that, again, is something to be thinking about. But another thing is I don't put all of my cash in my little bag. I have my cash divided up into 3 different areas, actually 4. I put my pants have special zippers on them, and I'll put a little bit of quick cash there. Quick cash, maybe 20 euros. I'll put a little bit of cash in my purse. And then I have a few little hiding places, which I won't discuss, but they're in my backpack and a few other places. And that way, heaven forbid, if something were to happen, I still have some cash available, okay? So need to think about that. Don't put all your cash in one place. And if at all possible, have your cash done in the currency that you need prior to your arrival. And with that, talk to your banking institutions about your credit cards. I tend to take 2 credit cards. One is a American Express, and another is a Visa. One is for primarily my hotels, and the other is for all my other travel. I will contact my credit card companies prior to my departure. I will let them know where I'm going to be and the types of purchases that they might expect to see. That has helped greatly with not having anything declined. I remember years and years ago, the first time I went to Toronto, I didn't know to do that, and no one ever told me. So I go to check into a hotel, and they wouldn't accept my credit card. I was a graduate student at that time, and fortunately, my advisor was staying at the same hotel. So he covered the cost of my room for me that night. And then, of course, I paid him when we got back to the States. But it was a little embarrassing, but it was a lesson learned. So check with your credit card companies. One, make sure that they are accepted overseas, and then tell them that you're going to be over there. Also, ask them if they are accepted in ATMs, because you don't, depending on how long you're going to be overseas, you don't want a huge amount of cash, all right? So you might want the ability to pop into an ATM and get a little bit extra cash from time to time. Now, you're going to pay a little bit of a fee, and that fee will depend on the bank that you're working with over there, as well as your institution here. Some credit card companies, American Express is very, very good. They don't have a foreign transaction fee. So that takes care of one level of an excess fee that you might get. But check with that, particularly if you are inclined to using debit cards. Often debit cards are not accepted overseas. So do check first. You don't want to be stuck overseas and not have the ability to get cash if you need it. The next thing you want to think about is your electronics and your security as you're online. Now, I'm not going to talk about getting little SIM cards and things like that. There's a lot of discussion about that. I tend just to get a short-term international plan with my cell carrier. I use Verizon. No, I'm not sponsored on this video. So anybody that I'm mentioning, I'm not getting paid for that. It's just who I use. But I will call Verizon about a week or so before I leave. I will sign up for a 1-month international plan, and that will cover the length of my stay. When I come back, got to remember to cancel that plan, okay? But that way I can make calls, get text messages, do work if I have to, and not have to worry about anything. But because I'm on Wi-Fi's in cafes, in hotels, I don't know how secure they are. So I highly recommend getting a VPN. All right. A VPN is a type of security shield that you would download onto your device and then activate it when you're overseas. I just keep mine activated all the time, even here in the US. And it acts as a block against people tracking my phone and getting in and hacking it. All right. And one VPN service covers all of my electronic devices. I don't have to have a separate one for each device. Very reasonable. Again, I'm not sponsored by any of them. I am using ExpressVPN right now. Great service. There's all kinds out there. Do your homework, look at their offers, ask about senior discounts. All right. Never be afraid to ask for a good discount. But do think about getting a VPN service. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk to you about is your personal health. I recommend checking with your primary care physician before you leave. Talk to them about the countries that you're going to be visiting and what you're going to be doing while in country, because they may have recommendations of specific vaccinations that are either required or recommended for various countries. Also, make sure that your prescriptions are updated. I recommend taking your prescriptions in their original bottles because it will have the prescription label on them. Also, you might want to check with the countries to ensure that your medication is allowed in the country. Many countries, particularly in the Middle East, have some very strict requirements and limitations as to what medications are allowed in country. And you certainly don't want to get stopped deplaning and have your medications confiscated, and then you don't know what to do. So check on that ahead of time. It's a very easy process. Just Google what prescriptions are allowed in country. Your pharmacist may even be able to do that for you if you tell him or her where you're going to go. And lastly, I want you to consider travel health insurance. And again, I'm not being sponsored by anybody, but my own personal it makes me feel comfortable to know that if something were to happen to me overseas, that I'm going to be covered, because US plans have very limited, if any, coverage overseas. The same thing with your credit card companies that may have a limited travel plan, maybe for evacuation, something like that. But if you needed emergency service, would you be covered? You need to check on that. And if the answer is no, then I recommend that you look into getting a short-term global health insurance plan. I use GeoBlue. Again, I'm not being sponsored, but I've used them in the past. And fortunately, I've never actually had to make a claim with GeoBlue, but they are very reasonable. The application is very quick. You do all of it online, and they're highly recommended and accepted internationally, particularly in Europe. So something to consider. And particularly if you are on Medicare, because Medicare won't cover you, as far as I know, it won't cover you outside of the US. So you certainly want to make sure that you have additional coverage. All right. That's all I have for today. I will talk about what goes in your suitcase or your backpack on the next video. Take care, be well, get your passport, and go travel. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already.